What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday here in the Triad. It's Desmond Johnson. I got my guy Jalen Gilkey with me every bye week. We got some stuff to discuss. Some big, huge national sports news dropped here in the Triad yesterday. We'll get to all that and more. Donal, Ware, voice of the A&T Aggies, he'll join us here to preview North Carolina A&T versus Wake Forest that you can hear here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio this Thursday night. The pregame starts at 6:30. Live coverage with Donald and Al Swan at 7. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Welcome back. Desmond Johnson Show. Dez, Jaelen from WFMY News 2 Sports Anchor in the house. Man, what's going on, man? There's been a whole lot of stuff. The high school football season kicked off Friday. A couple teams made some statements on Friday. Mark Pruitt will be in the house in his normal joint on Wednesday to give us his top 3 games going into week 2. I believe 2 of those we'll have 2 on Friday. Grimsley traveling to Raleigh to take on Rollsville. That'll be the WCOG high school Guilford County game of the week. Rollsville dropped 60-something points on Butler. I need to go holler at my man B-Dot because he's the PA for Butler to see how that game went. It was like 66-16 or something crazy. And then East Forsyth's taking on Heritage here in Kernersville. Oh, no, Jack Britt here in Kernersville from Fayetteville. So we'll get you some news and notes on that. Staying in high school, we actually, when we were planning the show, I was saying to Jaelen, we were going to start talking some NFL talk because preseason's over. Cuts are going to start happening today. But we're probably going to slide that a little bit to next week because the NFL season don't start for another couple of weeks. Bigger news kind of dropped in the Triad this week, really yesterday, over in Greensboro. We'll start off with the most recent news here. Top recruit Faizon Brandon, the 5-star junior quarterback for Grimsley, is suing the North Carolina State Board of Education over a ban on endorsement deals. He's committed to Tennessee. He's the number 1 rated recruit in the class of 2026. He just got moved up to 5-star. And basically, Jaelen, it feels like he's going to kind of be that flag bearer for potentially getting NIL in public schools because, I mean, it don't get much bigger than the number 1 recruit in the class of 2026 suing the state for the right to be able to do this. And I read through CBS Sports article to kind of see what the nuts and bolts of this was. And apparently, Faizon had an opportunity with an NIL sponsor, a major card dealer, that was offering a huge sum of money, apparently, with payment structured over time, enough apparently where Brandon's family would have financial security for years to come because he can't do NIL at public schools. Potentially millions of dollars that Brandon has no guarantee of ever recouping is in that complaint. Give me your initial thoughts on this when you heard it yesterday when it dropped about Faizon and his mother. His mother's joining the suit as well with him. What were your initial thoughts when you heard it, and what do you think is going to end up happening out of all this?
Well, I mean, honestly, I wasn't surprised at all once I saw this news come down, just because of how convoluted this NIL conversation has been here in the state of North Carolina. I remember back in May of 2023, I do believe that's when the North Carolina House of Representatives had passed that they were going to allow high school athletes to get paid and handle and agree to NIL deals. And that was supposed to start in July 1 of 2023. That never kind of worked out just because of the legalities and the red tape that took place between the NCHSAA as well as the state legislature. So between the Senate, the House, and the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, they just haven't been able to work out and get the kinks worked out and ironed out of this NIL deal like a lot of other states have. And it's unfortunately the kids are the ones who are missing out on the money. And I think that's really the that's the real premise here, because with a name like Faizon Brandon, who is now widely regarded as the #1 recruit in the class of 2026, I think his commitment to Tennessee already. He has the name, the leverage, the skill to be able to be the one, to be the flag bearer, to be the one to take up this this battle for his fellow North Carolina high school athletes. And I think I know we saw Kendra Harrison leave Reedsville not too long ago to go to Providence Day, the independent school here in North Carolina. And I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would imagine that the ability to receive NIL funding due to the fact that you're at an independent school probably played into their role. Not 100%. That's nothing Kendra and I have actually talked about, but I do believe that would be something that that could be in the mix to that part of that decision making. And I think it would even be stronger of a case if Kendra and Faizon were to be, I don't know what the proper legal term is. I would say like the only word I can think of is co-conspirators, but that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for.
Talking my head too. So
that's what I'm saying. It's not what I'm looking. If they could just both be the plaintiff here in this case, I think that would make it even stronger because as we know,
that would be
Kendra Harrison, 5-star football, 4-star basketball.
Same class. Same class 26. Yeah.
They're both top 20 and all ranked
top 10. I think Dre's at like 5 or 6 or something for that
a couple service. It's a couple that got him like 16, so that's why I like to say top 20 off this. But I mean, if you watch him play, he's top 10. But regardless, to the point, if you put them together, I think that would make the suit even stronger because the pot of money can grow and things along that nature. But I think I love what Faizon's doing, just jumping out there and saying, "I'm gonna be the guy that He's probably feeling a little bulletproof right now because he's already, got the verbal commitment to Tennessee, right? And he's still got, I'm sure, other schools that would love to, take him if he were to decommit from Tennessee as well. So
we'll get to that in a minute because we got a little bit more on the Grimsley side regarding that nationally. Grimsley all in the national news this week. I agree. I think if there had to be one kid to do it, it was probably him because he'll have the most notoriety. And I'm looking at it. This is why I have the 3 things I love, hated this weekend banner up because this is one of the things I actually loved was Faizon doing this because of his stature, like you said, it forces the state of North Carolina into a corner that they probably thought they could hide from for a little bit before they really had to come back around to this. Because I think they already kind of know that they probably should have went the other way. There's 38 states plus the District of Columbia that have NIL right now.
Yeah, they just couldn't figure it out. Like I said, it passed through the House already. They just couldn't figure out the last closing details. Now, I'm from St. Louis, so a lot of you guys at home may not know, but so the state of Missouri, they passed it to where if you sign to a state school, then you can start cashing into your NIL in high school before you get to college. And it's really a recruiting tool to help push everybody to Mizzou or to Missouri State, but
that's actually pretty smart.
The Power 5 students, they get to go. The Power 5 talent students, they want to push them to Mizzou because Mizzou was having a hard time losing a lot of talent to outside sources. And if you could, they passed that if you sign with a state school, then you could cash in on your NIL while you're still in high school.
That's actually
there's a lot of different states that have different variations of that, and so it makes it a little bit more enticing for the kid to not only stay in your state, but that helps the state because the talent doesn't leave, and it allows both parties to be happy, right?
Yeah. Shout out to I'm gonna give a quick shout out to Weddington, the defending 4A state champions who actually beat Providence Day on Thursday in that back to school kickoff at Bank of America Stadium. Looked pretty cool. I think Independence held on to beat Myers Park. That was the first part of that doubleheader.
I think they were up 24-0 at halftime.
Their head coach was talking some junk at halftime too. I saw some video like he was letting them walk in.
Shout out to Vashti Carolina Blitz for
he was just sitting there like, we shouldn't even game. Like they should have got somebody better. I'm like, yo, bro, it's halftime. the kids are gonna see this on their phones when they go in there for halftime. And shout out to Myers Park. They tried to make a comeback, but Independence, they're probably gonna have something to say too in 4A. Of course, Weddington and Independence played in the Western Regional Finals, so we'll see how that goes from there. Back to Greensboro and this whole thing here. We had this is Whirly Nation last night at Natty Green's, the Grimsley weekly coaches show with Coach Dale Brown, and Mike Fanning filled in for Chase Williams hosting. I thought he did an excellent job, and that'll actually be up on the Tobacco Road Podcast Network here shortly for people to go back and re-listen to. But Mike asked him straight up about NIL and how it affects things. And I thought Coach Brown's answer was spot on. He said basically what the state's going to end up doing is pushing these players out of state, or to private schools as soon as they get to high school. Like if there's no reason for me to be here and a car dealer or somebody comes up and says, hey, we want to give your family $50,000 to do an ad campaign for us for this season, and you can't do it because you're at East Forsyth or Grimsley or whatever, and you got to go to Charlotte Catholic or Providence Day or whatever just to cash in. It's like, why stay in the state of North Carolina? Like, I'm just going to leave and go someplace else that'll pay me even more money. And I'm sure that thought has crossed the Brandon family's heads as they're looking at this, because I'll be honest, like, if they can't change it in time, I would not be surprised if Faizon is not at Grimsley for senior year next year. And he gets scooped up by somebody in the state of Tennessee or wherever, IMG Academy in Florida,
Virginia, Maryland,
yes, anywhere.
Anywhere.
And what does that do to the state of North Carolina, perception wise, that you finally have the number one high school player in the country in football at quarterback in the Triad, at a really good school and a school that's won championships and they're pretty well known at this point. And he leaves. He has to leave because of the rule you made. And what was the point of the rule? Like, that's my thing. Like, who does this help? Like, to not allow them to do this?
It's just because, I'm gonna just say it like this, man. It's the three entities that involve a little bit of lazy, a little bit of too much controlling, a little bit of don't want to release power. You know what I'm saying? You mix that up, and that's what you got causing these issues here with the NCHSAA and the state legislator getting in their own way. Classic North Carolina behavior, unfortunately.
And Coach Brown,
you know what it feels like? It feels like David Tepper's running this whole thing. You know, because it just ain't going smooth. It's just not going. No. It's not about Bryce. Oh yeah, dude. I loved Bryce. I love the way Bryce looked at joint practice. I was at joint practice. He looked great. But it feels dysfunctional. It feels like David Tepper he's got his hand in it some way.
Actually, this is the first. This is the first offseason since he bought the team where I haven't felt his presence. Like it feels like he's kind of stepped out the way. And I was saying it on Cleveland Panthers at the end of the year. I'm like, dude, if you're gonna be a villain, like if you're gonna be the heel, lean into it, man. Be the heel. Don't be like, oh, I didn't mean to throw that drink at that fan or whatever. Be like, yeah, I meant to do it. This is what like, you know what I mean? Like, go NWO all the way into it if you're gonna do it, David Tepper. But don't tippy toe the line of heel and face. Like, choose one, be one. But it does feel like he's kind of let Dan Morgan start to run all this stuff, and the Panthers are sitting here looking at the waiver wire today because they're first on the waiver wire since they had the worst record in the league last year, and that's part of the reason why Dan Morgan's the GM, because apparently he's some kind of scout GM, pro scout whisperer or whatever. Like, he knows how to find dudes to plug in. So we'll see what happens with them. Before we get off of Grimsley, and again, I think we'll have Donal Ware on here shortly. Yeah, he'll be here in just a bit. To preview A&T's football season coming up here. Of course, we're the home of the Aggies Sports Network. We'll have football and men's basketball here this season on Tobacco Road and terrestrial radio. It's on the White WKW 1400 AM. I think it's 96.7 FM in the Triad. So that'll be there. Sirius XM. It's going to be on North Carolina A&T's Facebook Athletics page, which reaches 300,000 people, which is probably, to be honest, the biggest platform out of all the ones I just said that you can get to the game on. Or Tobacco Road. Just 2 clicks, you're there. Listen to it on your phone wherever you are in the country. That should be fun Thursday night. Again, before we leave Greensboro, though, the other news that came out of Grimsley earlier this weekend, senior defensive end Bryce Davis, who had committed to Clemson, flipped and is now going to Duke. It wasn't said that NIL had anything to do with it or anything of the sort, but if anything, I don't want to talk about Bryce because Bryce is a great kid and Grimsley's a great school and they're one of my schools. So I really want to go into it too deep.
He's a really great kid.
He's a really good dude. And it's his right to do it because of the way the rules are now. But it made me start to think
he hasn't signed anything. So, you know,
he hasn't signed anything. So you can do whatever you want.
So you can do it all.
And to be honest, Elko's Elko's not there anymore. It's
takes Manny Diaz.
Diaz, the dude that came from Miami. So, and Duke has been heavy in this area recruiting wise. Actually, the Big Four have the past 7 or 8 years.
I mean, let's be honest, bro. The best high school football right now is played in the Triad, and it's not.
I agree. I totally agree. Don't argue with a Charlotte dude about it though, because they believe.
I mean, that's cool because you got Weddington. Weddington's a great program always. You know,
they bounce around. See, in Charlotte, there's always one school that's like.
But collectively, the best talent is here.
It's up here. I mean,
not close.
The top tight ends up here, the top quarterbacks up here. Mitchell Summers isn't even getting really a whole lot of D1 looks, and he's the best running back.
He had 42 touchdowns last year, and he had 5 to open the season this year. You know what I'm saying?
We got it. Wow.
I'm on to get Mitchell Summers to to a P4
You know
or
where
just a Division I offer.
He needs
A&T
to go
need
to
to offer him
A&T.
though.
Yeah, he
A&T
need to go to
offer him.
A&T.
Oh yeah, I already put the bug in Coach ear. Don't worry about
I
it.
do the same thing
I
with
told
Coach
him.
Brown during the coaches shows. We tape him after his press
I
conference.
said
When
you
we
really
stream
need
it.
to go see this kid, man.
Yeah, I'm like, "Psst, come here, man. Hey,
You need to
got
go.
this kid
He
in
right
Kernersville.
down the
Go with
street.
him." But there's a
Right
lot
down
of
the
those kids too. They're going to end up probably at a school like A&T that are floating around because of the setup now with the portal and everything else.
Yeah.
It's made it really hard for a kid like Mitchell Summers to get looks because these teams can just go in the portal and pull out a kid that's got 3 years experience already.
Right.
And
If you NC State, right, you can go pull Jordan Waters, who was one of the top running backs in the ACC. You go plug him right from Durham, bring him down to Raleigh.
They picked up that kid, the running back that was
Hollywood Smothers.
Yeah, that was at Chambers, and then went to like West Charlotte. Something happened, and he was supposed to go to Oklahoma. They got him. The wide receiver that was up here that transferred in.
Yeah, so it was a kid from it was a kid he went to Weddington last year. No, he was but they did get Noah Rogers though. He transferred in too.
Okay, yeah, because he was at Rollsville and he was like one of the top wide receivers in the country. Went to Ohio State, and then I saw he transferred. He's at NC State. So
NC State's class is crazy this year. And then they got a kid to flip. So when Weddington played in the 4A state championship, I can't remember the kid's name, but it's 4-star wide receiver for Weddington. He scored 2 or 3 times. But he said he was committed to Carolina. Walked down the Tonal State Championship. He said God spoke to him and told him he was supposed to be at NC State. He called Coach.
Wow.
he called Coach Doran the next day. Was like, "Hey, do y'all still have a spot for me?" And he flipped.
Dang. See, it's just that easy. It's just that easy. And you're talking about 17, 18-year-old kids. Like, they don't know what they're going to eat for dinner. Like, literally, I want to go to Clemson today. I want to go to Duke today. I want to go here. I want to go there. But
and back to Bryce, I've been kind of screaming this for the last couple of years. Ever since around the pandemic time, and there was a lot of the civil unrest and social justice movement and stuff like that, Dabo Swinney put his foot in his mouth a couple times. One time too many. Whether it was about the social justice movements, whether it was about just the way he was going to run his program, not accepting the NIL, not embracing the transfer portal. It's a lot of things that he wants to keep it early 2000s, late 90s, and it's just not going to work. And it's clearly affecting his recruiting classes. I said it then that if I had a younger brother who was coming up to be a top prospect, I wouldn't encourage him to go play for Dabo just because of a lot of the things. And I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's a good person that means well. But a lot of the things he says, a lot of the things he does, and a lot of the things he thinks not really working in this time, especially when your job is to convince 17 and 18-year-old kids to come and trust you and their families to come trust you with their kids' safety and livelihood.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was actually I've had an ongoing text argument with JP Mundy and Ryan Stone about Clemson and how valuable they are to the ACC. And they're like, they get more eyeballs than anybody else in football. Yada, yada. I'm like, that might all be true, but
in football,
they're saying FSU and Clemson. They're putting them together.
Oh, like, in the ACC,
right? Yeah, in the ACC. Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of like, okay, yes, they do, but I don't expect Clemson to stay where they are like for a long period of time because
we already see what Florida State's looking like. So
exactly, Florida. What are y'all doing? Losing to Georgia Tech in Ireland like the first week? Come on now, you did all
that's very North Carolina of you. That's very North Carolina of you, Florida State.
Actually, it's Clemson before they started winning national championships. We used to call it Clemson down here. Like Clemson would start off like number 8 or something in the poll. They get to 6-0, then they lose to like somebody they weren't supposed, like High Point or somebody they weren't even supposed to lose. High Point even got a football team. Like they lose to somebody. They lose to somebody they was not supposed to lose to. You're like, oh, that's Clemson doing Clemson again. And that's kind of moved to NC State a little bit. Like NC State should win 10 games this year with everybody we just rattled off that they brought in.
And we didn't talk about Casey Concepcion.
Oh, yeah. See, they got him too. Yeah. And I think they got him as like their number 1 wide receiver. They're loaded. So they've been out here getting folks from Greensboro and Kernersville a lot. But I want to bring in, he is the voice of the Aggies radio network, Mr. Donal Ware in the house. What's going on, Donal?
What's good? I'm good. How y'all
What's doing? Up, OG? How we doing?
I'm good. Y'all doing okay?
Yeah, man. Just trying to wrap our arms around all this stuff starting at the same time, pretty much here in the sports world. It's how it is with high school football starting, and we got the season opener on the Aggie Radio Network Thursday night. You take a little trip down I-40 to Winston-Salem to take on Dave Clawson's Wake Forest team. You did the coaches show with Coach Brown yesterday. at A&T, and we had his press conference. Of course, he had a couple of players come in and talk. Tell us what you felt talking to Coach Brown yesterday. Where you think his mentality is in terms of the season and everything.
I think he feels good coming into the season as a whole and into this football game. Really, it's almost night and day in terms of his thought process. He's much more comfortable. It seemed like, obviously having been a first-year head coach and now in his second season, he's got some really good players coming back. I mean, I know he mentioned a bit of a quarterback battle. I would think that it may be Kevin White that would start. He's got the running backs, all the running backs coming back. The offensive line is solid. The back end of the defense is really good. He's got some veterans up front. So I think he feels good about this upcoming season, no doubt.
Jelly, you got
Absolutely.
any questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I spoke to Coach Brown, I do believe it was last Thursday. So we were exactly a week out, and he was telling me that just the leap that we should expect to see from Kevin White should be something that, Aggie faithful and Aggie Nation should be very, very that will be very pleased to see when we lace things up, against Wake Forest, and then when it comes down to it the week after that against Winston-Salem State, for sure. I think that's where we're really going to be able to open a lot of things up. Of course, the guys are going to want to go out there and compete on Thursday night and want to give it everything they have. Wake Forest got a lot of question marks on their side of the ball with their roster as well. Still not really sure who the quarterback is going to be. Missing a lot of key pieces up front. So, I mean, there's opportunity for A&T to really kind of make a splash here, kind of, put together just some good tape, because that's all we're really looking for, right? At this point, we're just looking for some good tape because we didn't get much of it last year. And
you think they can
especially
still
on the offensive side of the ball.
You think they can still win out in Winston since Wake seems like they're kind of down this year? Like, what do you think the odds are of A&T going there and surprising the world?
Just because of the uncertainty of the new offense, and I'm not looking for a win at this point, just because of how bad last year looked. And I'm gonna just be honest, as an Aggie alum, I'm looking for. I would like to see us score at least 3 times, like touchdowns, not field goals. I'm looking for some touchdowns.
Donal, we talked about this last year. I want to see the passing game. Like, it felt like we could not really pass the ball last year.
No, it didn't. It was not that it felt like it. It could.
It just was.
It could not.
They didn't even try. Like, after a certain point, it was just like
bottom of the FCS in passing, bottom of the conference in passing, by far.
And it's the story behind it, though. It's not like it just couldn't get talent in. I mean, Coach Brown came in kind of late in the cycle of the portal stuff that already been going on. Kids left because they didn't know who the coach was going to be. And it was a little bit of a wait. Same thing with Monty and the basketball program, where they kind of got caught in this weird gray area where the portal had already been kind of depleted by the time they got in. So this was really the first offseason for both Coach Brown and Coach Ross to really kind of start putting the rosters together. So I'm super excited to see what he puts out there, because I don't know about you, Donald, but I kind of take last year as a bit of a mulligan because of when he got hired. I want to say that press conference was like January, February.
Yeah, it was like early January.
Yeah.
And I think to y'all's point, I mean, regardless of the quarterback, like Justin Fahmy's got some experience, right? Like, we know Kevin White, and really Kevin White is Coach Brown's guy. He brought him in. He had some growing pains, no doubt, but he was starting to make some progression before he got injured. He looked pretty good. I mean, you can take whatever you want away from the spring game, right? But he looked pretty decent in the spring game. We know he can run the football. I think either way he goes, and we may see both quarterbacks. That's the thing. We may see both. These guys are going in to win this football game, right? Like, and you know this, Desmond, when I talked yesterday with not only him, but also with a couple of the players, Nick, and other players escaping me who we talked to yesterday. But in any event,
that was one of the linemen. I can't remember either.
But in any event, these guys are going in to win this football. That's the whole deal. And so we'll see what happens. First game of the season for both teams.
The live stream for Coach Brown from yesterday, giving kind of a state of the Aggies type thing. You can find that on the North Carolina A&T Aggies Facebook athletics page. There was a part in there that stood out to me when he mentioned former West Forsyth linebacker Mac David. And he basically said that he had the best, off-season training camp out of any of the linebackers. And that goes back to what me and Jaelen were talking about before you hopped on, Donald, where guys like Mitchell Summers over at Grimsley, the running back, that's not got a whole lot of D1 offers. We need to figure out a way to push him to East Greensboro, East Market Street, and get him over there with A&T, because there's so much talent like right here in the Triad that they're not going to be able to find homes because of the portal and kids moving around and committing and decommitting. There's always going to be open spots, and it feels like A&T could be like a gold mine, like just sitting right here in the Triad with all of this talent radiating out from the Triad, where they can kind of have their pick of who they'd want to bring in and kind of help rebuild the program back up to the heights that I know Jaelen being an alumni and you being the voice Aggies have seen in the past.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Greensboro's fertile ground. I mean, you talked about, East Forsyth, Dudley in particular, right? Like a lot of guys have obviously come from Dudley and played there, but it's a lot of talent certainly, in the Triad area. But I think what Coach Brown is trying to do is definitely trying to look at Greensboro out to North Carolina, some of his stomping grounds. You go into Virginia when he was at, of course, William and Mary, Atlanta, etc. But I mean, there's, it's like every student athlete, it's almost, this, Des, almost every student athlete we've talked with, it's like if you come for the visit and it's in that sort of realm of if you're FCS, kind of talent, you're almost going to come to A, particularly if you come to homecoming. Like you're coming to A&T.
I'm telling you, man. If we could just get them on an official visit, they'll be here.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. Like I had perceptions of like the campus or whatnot from when I was little, because I grew up in that little neighborhood off of Salem Street in the summertime. My aunt lived over there, so I knew the little store up at the front and the little park and all that kind of stuff. I was out there like 8, 9 years old and could hear the Aggie band, like the drum line, practicing through the trees, like in the summertime. It's like one of my fondest memories. So, but I also remember back then it was like everything was just like red brick. Winston State was like this too, where it was just all red brick buildings, nothing really fancy or anything like that. And now you go to campus and it's nice. It's nice. The student center alone is just like it's a crown jewel of the campus, and what they've built around it and everything else. It's just great to have it like there. And I'm proud that Tobacco Road has a relationship with A&T. They're able to help push the athletic program of the largest HBCU on earth. I still need to figure out a way to be able to produce homecoming at homecoming, so I can actually be on campus.
Too grand of a task, brother.
I'm trying to figure it out, because last year I almost did. I was going to be sitting behind y'all in the booth, like producing it, so I could go out and get a fish sandwich when it was over. But it's just too many things to juggle. Donald,
I got a question for Donald real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So on Thursday night, man, I think this is really a great opportunity for the defense to really kind of set the tone as to who they're going to be, because of the lack of an identity that Wake Forest offense has as of right now. How are you feeling about the defensive side of the ball and just being able to possibly, set the tone for this year that, if they give up 21, 28 points to Wake Forest, that's a great showing. That's a great night. So how do you feel about that? The chances of the defense getting out there and be able to put together one of those type of performances?
I'll tell you what, Jaelen, I look at particularly the back end, right? Because everybody comes back. Karan Prunty and Aaron on the corners. You got Ty Williams at one of your. So all of that whole back end that was starters. So that's a collective, cohesive unit. To your point, missing BJ, that's a big loss. But we also didn't have BJ for like the last 5-6 games of the season also. So to the point, some of those guys really stepped up. I think the key is going to be up front. And Henry Daniel, that's who we talked with yesterday. I think he's going to be key as one of those edge rushers. They're going to have to be able to get that pressure on the quarterback, because A&T is still a little bit, I think, not as big as they would like to be up front. Remember, Daniel at 265 played inside last year.
Yeah.
He's going back outside. So they've got some guys, but again, in terms of in the middle, but those guys have less experience. So I think if they can rush that passer and be able to stop the run, the back end is going to do its job, no doubt about that.
We're on the same page there for sure.
Donald, tell everybody where they can get to this game, because it's on multiple outlets Thursday night. We're going to be busy. We should have pregame at 6:30. Kickoffs at 7, live from Winston-Salem over at Wake Forest. Tell them where they can get to you and Al Swan.
Yeah, 103.5 FM in the Triad, also on 1400 AM, right? Of course, at TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, at TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, then also on the athletics page, the A&T Athletics Facebook page, and then also SiriusXM channel 382. So many places Aggie fans can catch this football game, the opener against Wake Forest. I mean, I'm super excited about it. I think the Aggies are going to have a really good showing on Thursday.
I think they're going to look a lot better than they did at points last year, and where it was just games where the offense just couldn't do anything. I think with a full offseason, I believe in Coach Brown. Like, you know, in terms of being around the man, talking to him, I believe his conviction. I believe his vision for what he wants the program to be, and he's been successful where he's coached that previously. That'll work. He just needed some time to get his own players in here, and I think he's had at least an offseason to kind of do that. I'm curious to see who he's brought in through the portal, because you can kind of not quick fix, but you can really band-aid up a roster pretty fast nowadays with the portal and everything else going on. And I keep seeing A&T keep getting money, man. Like, people keep throwing money to A&T the past like 12 months. So hopefully some of that's been used for NIL and be able to bring some kids in, and that, because this is a whole new world now with college athletics, the way you kind of bring a kid into your pro and keep him. That's the main thing. You got to keep a kid there now too. That's the big worry. But we got to get out of here. We will have that game Thursday night here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. The A&T Coaches Show with Donal Ware and head coach Vincent Brown will air this week. I want to say it's probably going to air, if not today, it'll probably air Wednesday afternoon. And then worst comes to worst, it will air right before kickoff, or right before the pregame show on Thursday night. So it'll probably air at 6, then pregame, and then the game. So we'll just follow our social media at Tobacco Radio on Twitter. We'll keep you posted for all of that. Donal, good seeing you, man. Just saw you yesterday. Gonna see your face a lot this season. Looking forward to it, and can't wait to chop it up again with you and Al. We'll get back on it, man, starting Thursday.
Sounds good, Dez and Jaelen. By the way, the talk before I came on that y'all had, very knowledgeable. You guys know your stuff when it comes to the high schools and to the ACC and all that, man. So y'all keep up the great work.
Thank you, Donal. I appreciate you, and a big fan of yours as well.
Definitely. So we're gonna go ahead and hop out for Tuesday. Tomorrow, the Winston-Salem Journal's prep beat writer Mark Pruitt will stop by. He'll give us his top 3 high school football games of the week. I'm pretty sure Rollsville Grimsley is going to be number 1 on that. And we will have that game on Tobacco Road Sports Radio Friday. So for Jalen Gilkey, for Donal Ware, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. We'll see you lunchtime tomorrow.